We also look at the fact that back here in Lagos, amid the rising number of cases and the refusal of persons who test positive for COVID-19 to go to isolation centers, many states have said they will continue to treat the infected patients at isolation centers rather than resort to home treatment option. They noted that getting persons who had tested positive for the virus to the isolation centers remained one of the strategies to contain the spread of the deadly virus. But back here in Lagos, the Commissioner for Health, Akin Abayomi, said on Thursday that the state is in the process of regularizing home isolation and treatment for positive COVID-19 patients in the state. In other words, if you have the option now of not only going to isolation centers but treating yourself, isolating yourself at home. Now, do you see dangers with this particular option that people treated? How many people can treat themselves at home? They've not necessarily put any measures, or if they're going to give you drugs or whatsoever, but do you really see this as a way out?
It's coming on the 8th day of the week. A little too late, but better late than never. Listen, Reuters came out with a report, I think sometime last week. The entire beds in Nigeria is 3,500.
Okay.
The entire intensive care beds in Nigeria is just 350. The entire beds in Lagos is less than 700. Now, the Commissioner for Health for Lagos, Professor Abayomi, had predicted that a scenario could play out that by the end of August we would have 120,000 cases in Lagos. If you have 120,000 cases, going by the global trend, you would expect that 5 or 3% will need hospitalization. So that's like between 3,000 to 6,000 people. So let's be more conservative and say 3,000, which is just 3% of the 120,000 cases. It means you're going to need 3,000 beds to take care of them in Lagos. Where do you have that? The entire country has just 3,500 beds. Lagos has less than 700 beds. Where are you going to hospitalize them? So the reality is you do not have the health infrastructure to deal with a breakout of this pandemic.
But sorry, the professor, that's the Commissioner for Health, has continually spoken on the fact that there are actually spaces, but the isolation centers are empty and people are not going there.
Exactly the point I am still making. The reason they are not going to the isolation centers is because most of those people are asymptomatic. Because more than 80% of the people who have this infection do not show symptoms. They do not fall really sick. You only have a tiny amount of people who are going to fall really sick from this infection. That's what I just told. Just between 5% of those infected are the ones who will need hospitalization. Many of people who are going to get tested and show a positive result are not going to really fall sick. So you can't be chasing people who are not sick when they can easily recuperate at home just by taking a few medications. If you have a guideline and a regulation for people to treat themselves at home and not come in contact with people and self-isolate, why are you wasting resources on those people who are taking hospital beds when the people who need hospital beds haven't yet emerged?
So what's the assurance that they would properly self-isolate and to not cause the spread of the virus?
Now that's the job of the government, because you need to ensure.
But government will not come to their houses and find out if they're self-isolated.
Oh yes, it will. Because in places like Korea, South Korea, that have been effective in dealing with this, the moment you have been flagged,
places like South Korea, not Nigeria.
I mean, do they have 3 heads?
Okay.
The moment you have been flagged that you have a potential, you have tested positive to the virus, your details are taken. There's an app that is developed. Your neighbors are, are flagged. A police, you're already on the watch list of the police. Somebody monitors your neighborhood. The moment you come out of your house, you're arrested or you're prosecuted, for violating a clear law. So you can implement these things if you want to. If you're serious about implementing them, you definitely will. So you should not waste your time trying to chase a whole lot of people, because the numbers are going up and they will continue to go up until August, because we have not even gotten to the peak of our infection rate. So the numbers will continue to go up. You can't police everybody. So you're better off giving a guideline of how people can recuperate at home and passing a law for people who break it to go out into the public to be prosecuted for doing that, and then focus your resources on the people who will need hospitalization and intensive care at the hospital, because that's where the real problem will be. And that's where, if they hit the hospitals and overwhelm our healthcare, we are going to be in serious problems. Remember that you are not just dealing with patients who have COVID-19. You have people who are on dialysis in the hospital. You have people who have heart problems. You have people with all sorts of problems in the hospital. The moment your health system is overwhelmed by people who are breaking down with COVID-19, it means it's going to be an entire catastrophe. of people falling ill or people dying unnecessarily because you don't have enough hands to take care of them, or you don't have enough beds to take care of them, and then we'll be looking at a situation where we are Brazil overnight.
Okay.
We don't want to get to that.
Okay,
point.
so let us cut it short now. The federal government has said they were in the stage of community transmission. Now, you're saying people should isolate at home. What about those who are in clustered environments? Will they really effectively self-isolate?
You see, we're still, you know, I give you a typical example. When the first Chinese doctors came into Italy to help, and they showed them what the Italians call the lockdown, and they laughed at the health officers of the Italians. Like, is this what you call a lockdown? Let us show you what a proper lockdown is. And then the Italians had to do their jobs and enforce a more stringent efforts of lockdown. The problem is, because you have not gotten a phone call of your uncle dying from COVID-19, you have not gotten a phone call of your neighbor falling ill and dying in the hospital, and then you think it's an entire hoax. When it becomes a real problem, when you go to hospitals and doctors are turning you back because there are no beds, when you see people die because doctors cannot treat you or because they do not have enough resources, then suddenly you realize that this has become a big problem, and then government will be compelled to now enforce greater regulations to ensure that people stay at home. I believe that it can be enforced. I believe when there's a will to do it, people will do it, and all government needs to do is to ramp up its communication and engage with citizens to tell them what the dangers of these diseases, and encourage people who have these signs to stay at home.
Okay,
and I think you're going to achieve that.
All right. Antonio Wade, do you also fall into this opinion? Do you feel that we can effectively at-home treatment for COVID?
It's correct, but not in Nigeria.
Not in Nigeria?
Not in Nigeria.
Why?
Let's be realistic. Let's use our own country as an example. This is the same country where governors are relaxing curfew. They are opening religious centers, opening markets. How possible? I mean, how can you achieve that? People don't even take lockdown serious. You see people walking around the streets. People should enforce it on the streets. Police are extorting people. They are crossing over the country. At night, they move across the federation. I mean, we can't achieve it. And because these people are not showing us good example for that matter, people don't take them serious. And that's why a lot of people are questioning this whole issue of COVID-19. They must show example. The other day, Kano State Governor, after the president gave directive, he went the other way. And nobody questioned him. Nobody questioned him. I think the governor of Ondo State is talking about opening the market. A whole lot of them are doing what they want. It shouldn't be. Somebody must speak, and every other person must fall in line. It's not about government. It's pure politics.
So you feel
don't do things right here. And I don't blame people who don't believe in this, because people should set the example and drag this thing down our brain and not doing it. They don't even believe this thing exists. Except maybe a few governors and all that. We can see what's happening in Kogi State. They don't care. A lot of people see, if you don't set good example, people won't believe you. And because of that mutual mistrust over time, and governments don't bothered. They're okay with the way things are going. You don't blame the citizen at the end of the day if they don't believe you. You need to show example. It's when you show example, I can then follow you. Things are not working well here. We can see what's going on. Some are saying open churches, the markets, Anambra State started it, and I was expecting the president to react to it. So when they go across places like this, what do you expect? It may happen in Korea, US and all that, in European countries, but here it's not happening.
So you would say that if you find out that you're positive for COVID-19, you should go to isolation centers rather than
isolations. Right now, let me even come to that. This isolation, okay, like the Commissioner for Health in Lagos predicting by August a high figure and all that. We don't have best spaces. We know that. Between now and that time, what are we doing to get these things? Why are we not investing in research? Why is it that we are predicting other countries? That's what they are doing at this moment. How can we curtail it? How can we stem the tide? How can we bring the figure down? We don't predict. What are you going to do? What are you doing? I mean, Madagascar, they brought in some things here, and till now I don't think they're using it. What we stand to gain? Why can't you? People have been standing up, scientists in this country. We have cure for this. Why do we take things a joke? Can't you just be for once be reasonable and do things that other countries can copy? Look at Madagascar, for instance. That tiny country. We are jokers in this. We are jokers. And until we do things rightly, take away politics from the things we do, we will be moving and making progress in circle. We will not make. In fact, just look at COVID. that people are dying. When you watch TV at times, you want to collapse when you see what's going on across the world. Go around Lagos. In fact, I'm in Lagos, so I can't say what's happening in your state or Ogun State right now. But in Lagos, go around and see people. They don't care. They don't know anything because they don't believe to an extent that this thing exists. Someone tell you it won't get to us. It's not a sickness. So that is where government needs to come in and change that narrative. Are they doing that? No, they are busy sharing palliative. How many people have not seen anything from? I've never seen an unserious government as this. It's not linked to this. Because Nigerians have taken Nigerians for a ride for too long. This is the time where we would have expected government to have empathy on the people. This is the time to reach out, not election time. And if Nigerians think the way I do, election will come, and we have to flog some people. You don't come because we're waiting for you to come at this time. You are nowhere. You are busy.
All right, thank you very much, Tony. Of course, he has made his own point there. While Andrea is saying that it's actually be good for us to start self-isolating at home due to the fact that the health sector will be overwhelmed by the increasing number of cases.
People self-isolate at home. Even some state governors are kicking against it.
Yes.
It's not for work for Lagos. How can you do that? How do you monitor such? If people self-isolate, how do you do that? People came back when they were at the airport that once you come back, you self-isolate. How do they track them?